Welcome, my friends. Gather around, make yourself comfortable, because tonight I have a story that is going to pull at every string in your heart. A story of winter snows and burning desires, of crowns that feel like cages, and of an enemy who became the only reason a cold emperor kept breathing. But before we step through the heavy wooden doors of the imperial palace, I need to share something with you. If you are someone who craves the full, uncensored continuation of these stories, if you want the extended 18+ Ancient BL content, the scenes that are too intense, too passionate, and too unrestricted for this platform, you can join us on Patreon at SpicyAncientBL. YouTube, as you know, does not allow us to show or freely monetize everything here. The deeper, more sensual, and unlimited royal forbidden romances are waiting for you over there. You can find the link right now in the description and in the pinned comment. Go take a look, and then come right back. Are you ready? Close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the sound of the wind. It is the dead of winter in the Great Yan Empire. The snow is falling so thick it looks like white silk tearing from the sky, covering the golden rooftops of the Jade Dragon Palace. Inside the Great Hall, it is freezing, not because of the weather, but because of the man sitting on the obsidian throne. Emperor Jian. They call him the Winter Sovereign. He is 26 years old, a man carved from marble and ice. He has ruled for 5 years, and in those 5 years, he has crushed every rebellion, silenced every treacherous noble, and expanded his empire with a brilliant, ruthless mind. He is beautiful, terribly so, with sharp, aristocratic features, dark eyes that give away absolutely nothing, and a posture so rigid it seems he has forgotten how to be human. He wears robes of deep midnight blue, embroidered with silver dragons. He sits in absolute silence. And then, the heavy doors of the throne room groan open. The wind howls, blowing snow across the polished marble floor. And walking through that storm, surrounded by armed guards, is a prisoner. Listen to the sound, clink, clink, clink. Heavy iron chains drag against the stone. This is Prince Lian, the last surviving royal of the fallen Qi kingdom, the kingdom Emperor Jian just conquered. Lian is 23. Where the emperor is cold and composed, Prince Lian is fire. Even now, battered, bruised, wearing the torn and blood-stained silver armor of his defeated army, his head is held so high it borders on arrogance. His dark hair is messy, falling over eyes that burn with a fierce, untamed defiance. The guards force him to the center of the room. Kneel before his imperial majesty, the lead general barks, kicking the back of Lian's knees. Lian stumbles, his chains rattling loudly, but he catches himself. He stands back up, his breathing heavy, and looks straight up at the throne, straight into the eyes of Emperor Jian. I kneel for the heavens, and I kneel for my ancestors. Lian's voice rings out, hoarse but completely steady. I do not kneel for the butcher who burned my home. A collective gasp echoes through the hall. The ministers whisper furiously. The guards draw their swords, the sharp sound of steel ringing in the quiet room. They are ready to execute him right there on the marble floor. But Emperor Jian, he doesn't shout, he doesn't signal the guards. He simply leans forward, resting his chin on his knuckles. For a long, agonizing moment, he just studies the captured prince. He looks at the dirt on Lian's cheek, the proud tilt of his jaw, the absolute lack of fear in those blazing eyes. Jian has spent his entire life surrounded by people who bow, people who flatter, people who lie. And here is a man, wrapped in chains, who looks at the most powerful emperor in the world, as if he is nothing. A strange, unfamiliar feeling flickers in Jian's chest. It is curiosity, and perhaps a deeply buried, dangerous spark of fascination. Jian slowly raises one hand, just a fraction of an inch. Instantly the guards sheath their swords. The room falls dead silent. You are a long way from home, Prince of Qi. Jian's voice finally echoes. It is deep, smooth, and sends a shiver down the spine of everyone listening. Your kingdom is gone. Your army is ash. Yet you speak to me as if you still wear a crown. Lian glares at him. A crown is just metal. Pride is in the blood. You can take my life, Emperor, but you will never have my submission. Jian's eyes darken. The tension in the room is so thick you could cut it with a blade. Everyone expects the Emperor to order a slow, agonizing death. Instead, a faint, almost invisible ghost of a smile touches the corner of Jian's lips. Death is too easy an escape for a royal prince, Jian says softly, though his voice carries to the very back of the hall. "No, you will live, Prince Lian. You will remain within these palace walls. You will wear the robes of a servant, and you will pour my tea. You will serve the man who broke your kingdom, until your pride finally breaks." Lian's eyes widen slightly. The insult is profound. A warrior prince, reduced to an imperial attendant. "I would rather die," Lian spits. "You don't have that choice," Jian replies, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Take him away, wash him, clothe him, and bring him to my study tonight." And just like that, the invisible threads of fate pull them together. Can you imagine the humiliation, the absolute fury burning inside Prince Lian as he is stripped of his royal armor, scrubbed clean, and forced into the plain, soft white and pale blue silks of a palace attendant? But here's the thing about Lian. Even in servant's clothes, he doesn't look like a servant. The soft silk only highlights the broadness of his shoulders, the lean, muscular build of a warrior, and the elegant, sharp lines of his face. That night, the snow is still falling. The imperial study is warm, lit by dozens of flickering candles, smelling faintly of sandalwood incense and old parchment. Jian is sitting behind his low wooden desk, reading military reports. The doors open softly. Lian enters, carrying a lacquered tray with a porcelain teapot and a single cup. He walks to the desk. He doesn't bow. He sets the tray down with a little more force than necessary. The cup rattles. Jian doesn't look up from his scroll. "Pour." Lian grits his teeth. He picks up the heavy, hot teapot. His hands, calloused from years of gripping a sword, now forced to carefully tilt porcelain. As he pours, a few drops of hot tea splash onto the desk, narrowly missing the imperial edict Jian is reading. Jian finally stops. He lowers the scroll. He looks at the spilled tea, and then slowly looks up at Lian. They are so close now. The desk is narrow. Lian is standing right over him. In the golden candlelight, Jian notices for the first time the exact shade of Lian's eyes. They aren't just dark. They are the color of amber, glowing fiercely in the dim room. "If you intend to poison me, Prince of Qi," Jian says quietly, his voice low, "you should at least learn how to pour the tea properly first." "If I had poison, Emperor," Lian whispers back, leaning down just a fraction, "I wouldn't hide it in your tea. I would make you look me in the eyes while I forced it down your throat. It is treason, absolute, undeniable treason. Any other servant would have been dragged out and beheaded." But Jian just stares at him. His breath catches, just slightly, in his chest. He looks at Lian's lips, pressed together in anger. He feels the heat radiating from Lian's body. For a man who lives in a world of ice, this proximity to fire is intoxicating. "Try it," Jian murmurs, his voice dropping to a husky register. "I dare you." Lian's breath hitches. He wasn't expecting the Emperor to challenge him like this. He wasn't expecting the sudden, heavy silence that drops over them, or the way the Emperor's dark eyes seem to trace the line of his throat. A strange, confusing shiver runs down Lian's spine. He pulls back, his face a mask of cold indifference, and steps away into the shadows of the room. This becomes their dance. Days turn into weeks. Winter slowly bleeds into a bitter, cold spring. And the dynamic between the cold emperor and the captive prince becomes the quiet obsession of the imperial court. Everywhere Jian goes, Lian is there, a silent, brooding shadow. When Jian meets with his ministers, Lian stands by the door. When Jian reads late into the night, Lian is the one grinding the inkstone. They rarely speak, but the silence between them is never empty. It is loud. It is charged with a tension so thick, it makes the air in the room feel heavy. Jian finds himself constantly looking for Lian. He notices the way Lian's brow furrows when he is tired. He notices the way Lian's hands subconsciously grip the hilt of an invisible sword when the military generals walk past. He notices the subtle, lingering scent of pine and rain that seems to follow the prince. And Lian? Lian is struggling. He wants to hate this man with every fiber of his being. He should hate him. But as he stands in the corner of the study, night after night, he starts to see the cracks in the emperor's mask. He sees Jian rubbing his temples, exhausted by the endless scheming of the nobles. He sees Jian refuse meals because he is too busy trying to prevent a famine in the western provinces. He realizes that the all-powerful emperor is just as much a prisoner of the throne as Lian is a prisoner of the palace. One night, the tension between them shifts. It is well past midnight. The palace is dead silent. Lian is standing by the window, watching the rain outside. He looks over at the desk and realizes that Jian has fallen asleep in his chair, a brush still loosely held in his hand. Lian hesitates. He steps closer. The emperor looks completely different when he sleeps. The harsh lines of his face soften. The intimidating, cold aura fades away, leaving behind a man who just looks terribly, desperately tired. Without thinking, Lian reaches out. He carefully takes the brush from Jian's loose fingers, setting it on the rest. His fingers accidentally brush against Jian's skin. It is freezing. The emperor's skin is always so cold. Lian looks at a heavy fur mantle draped over a nearby chair. He tells himself he is only doing it because if the emperor catches a cold, it will mean more work for the servants. He picks up the mantle, steps around the desk, and gently drapes it over Jian's shoulders. As he leans in to adjust the fur, he is suddenly extremely aware of the emperor's face, only inches from his own. He can feel the soft, steady rhythm of Jian's breathing against his collarbone. For a second, Lian forgets how to breathe. His heart gives a strange, hard thump against his ribs. Suddenly, Jian's hand shoots out. His long fingers wrap around Lian's wrist with an iron grip. Lian gasps, trying to pull back, but the grip is too strong. Jian's eyes flutter open. They are dark, unfocused, clouded with sleep and something much, much deeper. He doesn't let go of Lian's wrist. Instead, he slowly pulls Lian's hand down, pressing the back of it against his own cheek. Lian freezes. His breath completely stops. Jian sighs, a soft, vulnerable sound, leaning into the warmth of Lian's hand. "Don't go," Jian whispers, his voice thick with sleep, confusing Lian with someone from a dream. "It's so cold. Stay." Lian's heart is hammering so loudly he is sure the guards outside can hear it. He should pull away. He should slap the emperor's hand away. But he doesn't. For a long, dangerous minute, they stay like that in the dim candlelight. The captive prince, holding the face of his conqueror. The warmth of Lian's palm, melting the ice on the emperor's skin. When Jian finally slips back into a deeper sleep, his grip loosens. Lian carefully pulls his hand away, stumbling back into the shadows, his chest heaving, his hand tingling as if it has been burned. He realizes with a terrifying clarity that the hatred in his heart is making room for something else, something forbidden. And if you are enjoying this forbidden royal tension, this dangerous dance between conqueror and captive, remember, the extended, deeply sensual and uncensored 18+ continuation of this kind of intense romance is waiting for you on Patreon at SpicyAncientBL. The link is right there in the description and the pinned comment. Come find out what happens when the doors are locked and the lights go out. Let us return to the palace. The turning point comes during the annual royal spring hunt. The entire court moves to the imperial hunting grounds on the edge of the northern forests. Tents of gold and crimson silk dot the green valleys. It is supposed to be a celebration, but for Lian, it is a nightmare. He is forced to walk behind Jian's horse, wearing the plain clothes of a servant, surrounded by the very generals who slaughtered his people. During the evening banquet, the nobles drink heavily. The air is thick with roasted meat, wine, and arrogant laughter. Jian sits at the head table, quietly sipping his cup, his eyes constantly tracking Lian, who is moving through the room, pouring wine for the ministers. A fat, wealthy lord from the east, drunk on rice wine, watches Lian approach. As Lian leans over to pour, the lord suddenly reaches out and grabs Lian by the waist, pulling him harshly against his side. "Ah, the proud prince of Qi," the lord slurs, laughing loudly. "Look at you now, reduced to serving drinks. Tell me, little prince, are you as obedient in the bedchamber as you are with a wine jug?" Lian's eyes flash with a murderous rage. His hand instinctively moves to his waist, reaching for a sword that isn't there. The entire tent goes quiet. Everyone is watching. Before Lian can react, a loud crack echoes through the tent. The music stops. The dancing girls freeze. Emperor Jian has slammed his solid jade wine cup down on the table so hard it has shattered into dozens of pieces. Blood is dripping from his thumb, but he doesn't seem to notice. The emperor stands up. The temperature in the tent seems to drop 20 degrees. His eyes are fixed on the Eastern Lord, and the look in them is nothing short of demonic. "Take your hands off him," Jian says. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. The quiet menace in his voice makes the Lord turn pale white. The Lord instantly lets go of Lian, scrambling out of his seat and falling to his knees. Your Majesty, I was merely making a joke. He is my attendant, Jian says, stepping down from the dais, his boots echoing loudly in the silent tent. He walks slowly until he is standing right beside Lian. He doesn't look at the Lord, he looks at Lian. He reaches out and gently, deliberately, brushes a stray lock of hair behind Lian's ear. The intimacy of the gesture in front of the entire court is shocking. No one touches what is mine, Jian whispers, just loud enough for the trembling Lord to hear. If you ever lay a hand on him again, I will have your arms removed from your body. Do you understand? Yes, yes, Your Majesty. Forgive me, the Lord sobs, pressing his forehead to the dirt. Jian turns to Lian. Their eyes meet. The intensity in Jian's dark gaze makes Lian's breath hitch. There is no hiding it anymore. The fierce, terrifying possessiveness. It isn't just a master protecting a servant. It is a man protecting the one person he cares about. Come with me, Jian commands softly. He leads Lian out of the crowded tent, away from the noise, away from the staring eyes. They walk into the cool night air, toward the edge of the forest, where the moonlight cuts through the trees. They stop under a large, ancient willow tree. You didn't need to do that, Lian says, his voice a little shaky, trying to maintain his pride. I could have handled him. I know you could, Jian says, stepping closer. The moonlight catches the sharp angles of his face. But I didn't want him looking at you. I didn't want him touching you. Lian swallows hard. He backs up slightly, his back hitting the trunk of the willow tree. There is nowhere else to go. You are acting recklessly, Emperor. The court will talk. They already hate me. Now they will think. Let them think whatever they want, Jian interrupts, stepping into Lian's personal space. He is so close now that Lian can feel the heat radiating from him, can smell the wine and the pine needles, and the faint metallic tang of the blood on Jian's cut thumb. Jian reaches out. He doesn't touch Lian, but he places his hands on the tree trunk on either side of Lian's head, effectively trapping him. Lian, Jian breathes, and it is the first time he has used his name without the title. It sounds like a prayer falling from the Emperor's lips. Do you have any idea what you are doing to me? Lian's chest rises and falls rapidly. He looks up at the man who destroyed his world, the man he is supposed to despise, and all he feels is a desperate, crushing pull. I don't know what you mean. You are a fire, Jian whispers, lowering his head, his nose just inches from Lian's. And I am burning alive. Lian closes his eyes. He can feel Jian's breath on his lips. The tension is unbearable. Every muscle in his body is screaming for him to close the distance, to push forward and crash his mouth against the Emperor's. He feels Jian's gaze drop to his lips, feels the Emperor leaning in, the invisible magnetic force pulling them together. Thwack. A sharp, violent sound shatters the moment. Something whizzes through the air, completely missing Jian's head by a fraction of an inch, and embeds itself deep into the tree trunk beside Lian. It is a black-fletched arrow. Assassins. Instantly, the romantic tension vanishes, replaced by pure adrenaline. Get down, Jian roars, grabbing Lian by the shoulder and throwing him to the ground, just as two more arrows fly through the darkness. From the shadows of the forest, half a dozen men dressed in black drop from the trees, drawing curved, deadly swords. They aren't aiming for the prince, they are aiming for the Emperor. Jian doesn't hesitate. He draws the long, slender sword from his waist. The Winter Sovereign isn't just a ruler. He is a deadly martial artist. He moves with terrifying speed, his blade reflecting the moonlight as he parries the first attacker, slicing through him with ruthless efficiency. Lian is unarmed. He scrambles back, watching the chaotic fight. Jian is brilliant, fighting off 3 men at once, but it is too dark, and he is outnumbered. Suddenly, Lian sees a shadow moving up in the branches above. An archer, drawing back a heavy bow, taking direct aim at Jian's unprotected back while he is engaged with the swordsman. Jian, above you, Lian screams. But Jian is locked in combat. He can't turn. Lian doesn't think. The hatred, the pride, the logic, it all evaporates. All he knows is that he cannot let this man die. Lian lunges forward. He throws his body between Jian and the falling arrow. Thuk, Lian gasps. The sound is wet and horrifying. A searing, blinding pain explodes in his right shoulder. The force of the arrow throws him backward, and he collapses heavily onto the grass. Jian turns just in time to see Lian fall. Time stops. The cold, calculated emperor vanishes. What replaces him is an absolute monster of grief and rage. With a terrifying roar, Jian tears through the remaining assassins. It isn't a fight, it is a slaughter. Within seconds, the bodies of the attackers lie motionless on the ground. Jian drops his sword. He falls to his knees beside Lian. Lian, Lian, look at me. Jian's voice is frantic, completely stripped of its usual calm. His hands are shaking violently as he presses them against the wound on Lian's shoulder, trying to stop the dark blood from spreading across the white silk of his clothes. Lian blinks, the edges of his vision going dark. The pain is agonizing, but when he looks up, he sees something that shocks him. The Winter Sovereign is crying. A single tear cuts down Jian's perfect cheek, mixing with the dirt and blood. "You fool," Jian whispers, his voice breaking. He carefully lifts Lian's head, cradling him against his chest. "Why? Why did you do that? I conquered your home. I took your freedom. Why would you take an arrow from me?" Lian smiles, a weak, bitter, trembling smile. He slowly reaches up with his good arm, his blood-stained fingers grazing the collar of Jian's robes. "Because," Lian coughs, his breathing shallow, "because if you die, who will I annoy in this massive, empty palace?" Jian lets out a choked, breathless laugh that sounds more like a sob. He pulls Lian tightly against his chest, burying his face in Lian's hair. "Guards! Guards!" His roar echoes through the entire valley, shaking the trees. "Get the imperial physician. If he dies, I will execute every healer in this empire." The journey back to the capital is a blur of fever and pain. When Lian finally wakes up, he isn't in his small servant's room. He is lying on a massive, incredibly soft bed, draped in heavy gold and black silk. It takes him a moment to realize where he is. He is in the emperor's private bedchamber. The room is warm, smelling heavily of medicinal herbs and soothing incense. Lian tries to sit up, but a sharp pain in his shoulder makes him hiss. His chest is bare, tightly wrapped in white bandages. "Don't move." The voice comes from the shadows. Jian steps into the light of the bedside candle. He looks terrible. He isn't wearing his crown, his hair is loose and messy, and dark circles frame his tired eyes. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. Jian walks to the edge of the bed and sits down. In his hands, he holds a small ceramic bowl of warm water and a clean cloth. "The physicians say the arrow narrowly missed your lung," Jian says quietly, his voice raspy. "You have had a fever for 3 days." You stayed here?" Lian asks, his voice weak. "I haven't left this room," Jian replies, dipping the cloth into the water. He wrings it out and gently, so carefully, begins to wipe the sweat from Lian's forehead. The gesture is so incredibly intimate. The all-powerful emperor of Yan, playing nursemaid to a captive prince. "Jian," Lian whispers. "It feels so strange, yet so right, to say his name. You shouldn't be doing this. The court—" "Damn the court," Jian interrupts smoothly. He moves the cloth down, wiping the damp skin of Lian's neck, his collarbone, tracing the edge of the bandages over his bare chest. His touch is light, reverent, almost trembling. Lian's breath hitches. The fever makes his skin hypersensitive, and everywhere Jian touches him, a trail of fire is left behind. Looks up at Jian, and the sheer intensity of the emotion in the emperor's eyes pins him to the bed. "When I saw you fall," Jian murmurs, setting the cloth down and resting his hand flat against Lian's uninjured chest, feeling the steady, frantic beat of his heart. "I realized something. I realized that my empire, my crown, the millions of miles of land I rule, none of it means a single thing if you are not in it." Lian's eyes fill with unexpected tears. The walls he has built for months, the armor of his pride, finally shatter into a million pieces. "I am a prince of Qi," Lian whispers, a single tear slipping down his cheek. "You are my enemy." "Then let us be enemies," Jian says, leaning down. He supports his weight on one arm beside Lian's pillow, his face hovering just above Lian's. "Fight me, curse me, hate me, but stay with me, stay alive." Lian stares at his lips. The distance between them is gone. I don't think I can hate you anymore, Lian confesses, his voice breaking. Jian's eyes darken with overwhelming desire. He lowers his head, and finally, after months of agonizing restraint, he presses his lips to Lian's. It is soft at first, cautious, afraid of breaking him. But Lian lets out a quiet gasp, his good arm coming up to wrap around the back of Jian's neck, tangling his fingers into the Emperor's dark hair, pulling him closer. The kiss explodes. It is desperate, hungry, filled with the terror of near death and the overwhelming relief of survival. Jian's mouth is surprisingly warm, demanding and commanding, yet incredibly tender. He shifts his weight, being painfully careful not to touch Lian's injured shoulder, burying his face into the crook of Lian's neck, kissing the sensitive skin there, making the prince let out a soft, helpless sound that is completely lost in the quiet room. They stay like that, wrapped in the silk and the shadows, breathing each other's air, speaking unspoken promises in the dark. But a romance like this, in a palace like this, cannot remain hidden forever. The climax of our story arrives a month later. Lian's shoulder has healed, the secret between them has grown deep and intoxicating. Late-night whispers, stolen touches in the imperial library, glances across the throne room that speak 1,000 words. But the ministers of the court are not blind. They see the way the emperor looks at the prince. They see the incredible influence Lian now holds, and they are terrified. They cannot allow the last royal of a conquered state to hold the heart of the emperor. A plot is hatched. It is the evening of the moon festival. The palace is decorated with thousands of paper lanterns. Lian is in his chamber, preparing to meet Jian in the royal gardens. A senior palace servant enters, bringing Lian his daily dose of herbal medicine for his shoulder. "Drink quickly, prince," the servant says, his eyes nervously darting away. "It must be taken while hot." Lian takes the bowl. He lifts it to his lips. He is just about to take a sip when the door to his chamber violently kicks open. A shadow guard, Jian's personal hidden assassin, bursts in. Before Lian can process what is happening, the guard strikes Lian's wrist. The bowl shatters on the floor. The dark liquid hits the wooden floorboards and instantly sizzles, bubbling up with a toxic, foul-smelling green foam. It is the lethal nightshade poison. Lian stares at the bubbling liquid, his blood running cold. Moments later, Jian arrives. The emperor takes one look at the floor, one look at the terrified servant, and the temperature in the room drops below freezing. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't hold a trial. Jian grabs the servant by the throat and drags him out of the room. He orders the imperial guards to round up the 5 highest-ranking ministers of the court and bring them to the throne room immediately. It is the middle of the night. The ministers, dressed in their sleeping robes, are thrown onto the cold marble floor of the great hall. Jian is sitting on the obsidian throne, and standing right beside him, no longer in the shadows, no longer wearing the robes of a servant, is Prince Lian. Lian is wearing dark, rich silks, standing tall, looking every bit the royal he was born to be. "You dared." Jian's voice is quiet, but it echoes like thunder. He stands up, slowly walking down the steps, toward the trembling ministers. "You dared to strike at the very heart of your emperor." "Your Majesty," the Prime Minister cries out, pressing his face to the floor. "He is a danger. He is a prince of Qi. He is bewitching you. For the good of the empire, he must be eliminated." Jian stops right in front of the Prime Minister. He slowly draws his sword. The scrape of steel echoes loudly. "The good of the empire?" Jian asks softly. He lifts the sword, resting the cold blade against the Prime Minister's cheek. "Let me make something incredibly clear to you, and to history. I conquered the world. I built this empire with blood and steel. But I would burn it to the ground. I would watch every city turn to ash before I let a single one of you harm a hair on his head." The court is completely silent. Jian turns, looking up at Lian, who is watching him with wide, emotional eyes. "Prince Lian is not a prisoner. He is not a servant," Jian announces, his voice ringing with absolute, undeniable authority. "He is untouchable. He belongs to the emperor. And from this night forward, whoever speaks his name without respect, whoever plots against him in the dark, will answer to my blade." He looks back at the ministers. "Take them away, strip them of their titles, throw them in the deepest cells." The guards drag the screaming ministers out into the night. The heavy doors slam shut, leaving just the two of them alone in the vast, grand throne room. The silence settles in. Jian slowly walks back up the steps of the dais. He drops his sword. It clatters on the stone floor. He looks physically exhausted, the weight of his anger draining out of him. Lian takes a step forward. He reaches out, taking Jian's cold, trembling hands in his own warm ones. "You shouldn't have done that," Lian whispers softly, looking up into Jian's dark eyes. "You just made an enemy of your entire court for me." Jian smiles, a genuine, heartbreakingly tender smile. He pulls Lian in, wrapping his arms securely around Lian's waist, resting his forehead against Lian's shoulder. "I don't care," Jian murmurs into the silk of Lian's robes. "I have fought wars my entire life, Lian. You are the only peace I have ever found. I will not let them take you away." Lian closes his eyes. He lifts his hands, wrapping his arms around the emperor's broad shoulders, holding him back just as tightly. The captive prince and the conquering emperor, standing together in the empty throne room, realizing that the invisible chains of duty, pride, and hatred have finally been broken. What is left is a bond forged in fire, a love born in the cold, blossoming into an undeniable, unbreakable flame. They will face many more trials. The court will plot, the nobles will scheme, and the ghosts of their pasts will always linger. But as Lian leans back, cups Jian's face in his hands, and presses a deep, lingering, passionate kiss to the emperor's lips, they both know one thing for certain. They will face it all, together. And that, my friends, is where we leave Emperor Jian and Prince Lian for now. The tension, the devotion, the absolute power of their bond, it is just the beginning of their reign. If you want the next part, the uncensored continuation, the late nights behind those heavy imperial doors, and more unlimited 18+ Ancient Royal BL stories, come join Spicy Ancient BL on Patreon. I have so much more waiting for you, far beyond what YouTube allows me to tell you here. The link is waiting for you in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you for listening. Keep the candles burning, and I will see you in the next story.